Hello and welcome to another edition of View from the Bleachers. I'm Tim Jones, and today's topic is about how to enjoy yourself the next time your spouse comes up with a brilliant idea to spend a day at the museum. You remember what museums are, right? They're those large, imposing buildings like this one here, usually with 4 to 5 levels, each approximately the size of the Library of Congress, filled with educational displays of art or science or history, which your partner finds enthralling. Meanwhile, you can't wait to locate the cafeteria because, well, after 3 hours of reading placards about obscure marine mammals that went extinct during the Pleistocene era, you're famished. More on the other side. Hey, let's do a pop quiz to test your natural history knowledge. Which one of these is the Eurasian tree sparrow and which is the white-browed rock sparrow? Give up? Well, the correct answer is, who gives a hoot? They're just sparrows, for God's sakes. Nobody cares, with the exception of my wife. As a good husband, I try to feign interest in my wife's favorite passions. It's easy when we're talking about kittens or kayaking, but the next time my wife asks, "Honey, how would you like to check out this new museum?" If you have an ounce of compassion in you, please, for the love of God, stop me from spinelessly acquiescing to her very misguided suggestion. One time, we went to an art museum filled with art from the 15th through the 17th centuries, where we saw hundreds of paintings of very unhappy people, kings on horseback, and baby Jesus on Mary's lap. I'm not exactly sure what's going on in this particular painting, but my guess is that it's about a man who's serving his wife divorce papers for nagging him one too many times to accompanying her to another museum. You see, a day at the museum is hazardous to my emotional well-being. The problem is that, well, my wife and I have very different notions of what it means to check out a museum. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about a museum of paintings, cuckoo clocks, or the Pacific Northwest Museum of Tree Bark. It's all about the approach. You see, I like to swoop in, catch a glimpse of 3 or 4 major highlights, and then get out while I still have some functioning brain cells. But my wife, she might as well sign a short-term rental agreement with the museum's board of directors because she's planning on staying a while. Recently, we visited the Museum of Anthropology and Natural History, and Michelle got really excited because she learned that this was the very last day of their special exhibit called Fabrics Around the World. I swear I'm not making this up. I figured, how long could this possibly take? I mean, you have cotton, polyester, wool, the 3 basic fabrics that have made up every article of clothing that I have ever owned. We'd roll in, go through the entire display in 15 minutes max. I was off by a factor of 1 hour. You see, my wife, she's an artist, and she was fascinated by the intricate weavings found in Morocco, the brilliant colors preferred in the hilltop regions of Bhutan, and the myriad methods of felting coming from the British Isles. Meanwhile, my interest in fabrics was focused on a pizza stain that I just noticed on my white t-shirt. Which t-shirt was woven, and I think you're going to find this interesting, in the Philippines, using a traditional polyester blend made in a sweatshop by a 9-year-old boy named Danilo. Danilo. That's a nice name. I perked up a bit when we entered the Hall of Masks of Papua New Guinea. A quick scan told me that these tribal dudes would crush it at any Halloween party because, well, they make the scariest masks I've ever seen. Friday the 13th Jason had nothing on these guys. After scanning about 10 masks, well, I got the gist and I was ready to move on. My wife Michelle, however, well, she had taken out her sketch pad, never a good sign, and started drawing a montage of her favorite masks. Well, after about 4 hours fighting to stay awake through the mesmerizing displays of Aboriginal Australian composting and Tahitian grass skirts, I felt that I had duly served my museum sentence. But my hopes for an escape were dashed when my wife spotted the Pacific Coast Native Americans totem pole display. Now, thankfully, it was all contained in just one room. Unthankfully, that's a word now, the room was approximately the area of an aircraft carrier flight deck. My wife spent 73 minutes examining the artistic intertwining of wolves, coyotes, and eagles on each totem pole. I was more interested in how the carvers managed to get the beaver and the raven and the bear and the orca all to pose on top of one another without falling, or for that matter, attacking the carver. My suggestion about leaving to catch the Ohio State Buckeyes football game on TV went over like a deflated Goodyear blimp. What was I thinking? Of course, listening to a docent drone on about the intricacies of smelting techniques in ancient Mesoamerica was eons more riveting. Well, fortunately, we got out of that exhibit in under 15 minutes. I was not so fortunate with the next exhibit, a 100-piece collection of Cameroon funerary urns. I'll spare you the 20-minute lecture on how they were made. They baked clay. As the days wore on, okay, technically it might have only been hours, I tried various subtle hints to indicate that I was ready to leave, like, well, looking at my watch, yawning, and drawing a chalk outline on the floor and lying inside it. But it was no use. My wife felt compelled to read every exhibit description, like she had just discovered the original 10 Commandments tablets. And don't get me started about the docent's painfully dull talk on the mating habits of Tasmanian tree snails. It was excruciating punishment. If you ask me, the CIA should hire that lecturer to torture terrorists into confessing. Heck, after 30 minutes, I would have confessed to kidnapping the Lindbergh baby if it would make her stop talking. My vision was blurry, my head was spinning, and I had lost feeling in my lower extremities when at last my wife agreed to call it a day. And just ahead, I could make out the most beautiful inscription I had read all day. Exit. I could see our car in the parking lot beckoning me. But at the last moment, my wife noticed, whoa, one final alcove that she just had to explore. The museum's gift shop. Damn it, so close to making my escape. I'll only be a minute, she lied, as she headed in search of morsels of cultural trivia. Somewhere, apparently, there was a 400-page book about the baskets of Borneo calling her name. My wife could have easily spent more time at the museum, and by more time, I mean a full lunar cycle. But 6 hours spent looking at spoons from Uganda and bridal hats from Bolivia was as much punishment as I could endure. When we finally got home, she headed to her studio to arrange her new collection of Inuit polar bear figurines that she had bought at the museum gift shop. I, on the other hand, snuck off to my man cave to soak up some quality culture. Sunday night baseball. The pitcher threw a no-hitter. Now, if you ask me, that's a thing of rare, exquisite artistry. Well, that's the view from the bleachers. Perhaps I'm off base. I'm Tim Jones, and remember, if you liked this video or simply felt sorry for me, please click on the subscribe button below and share this video with your friends or anyone you'd like to annoy. For more of my humor, you can visit my website, viewfromthebleachers.net. Thanks for joining me, and bye for now.